Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone back for, I hate to say academic year, but our new year for the local AMS chapter. I'm going to start off real quick with a little bit of chapter business, and all that really amounts to is if you haven't paid your $10 dues, please do so. The information on where to send that is in the membership form, but if you have any questions, feel free to email any of the officers. But essentially, the money gets sent to Stanley to go into our accounts. So with that, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker. To get everything started off, we went with the big guns, and tonight we have Tim Marshall. He's an engineer and a meteorologist based out of North Texas who specializes in surveying and assessing building damage in the wake of natural disasters. He's active in tornado research, and his expertise is highly sought after. With that, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to you to take the screen.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is kind of a new thing for me, doing the AMS chapter virtually. Okay. Well, we'll see if everything goes smoothly or not, okay? So I'm going to share my screen and see if we can get a PowerPoint presentation uploaded. And give me a thumbs up if you can see that, everybody. Is that something you all can see? Okay, well, that's good. I get a thumbs up. That must mean something is happening correctly. All right, well, my chase partner is Evan Bookbinder, who's also online, I see. Hi, Evan. And Evan and I have this shared fascination about wind. And although my job is to do damage surveys, I like the wind. And so I have been chasing hurricanes since 1980. That was my first one, Hurricane Allen, and I went down to Corpus Christi, Texas. And I just like the high-speed winds. And it just is kind of a rush in a way. The work part of me says, okay, if you go down there and you experience this hurricane, you can later on testify that you were there. You know how bad this hurricane was. You know which came first, the wind or the water. Or did they come simultaneously? What was the wind speed? What kind of damage did it do? You know, being from Dallas, we don't get hurricanes in Dallas. So you got to go down to the coast. And over the years, I've refined forecasting a bit and chase strategy a bit. I've learned from my mistakes. I think some of the things that I've learned, the greatest is I have to really do a lot of strategy in terms of planning the route to get there, because you don't want to get stuck there. Just a simple power line down or a flooded road, and if you don't have an alternative plan, you're stuck there and you could be there for days. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be stuck out there. My mission is to get to the hurricane, get in the eye, and get home or get back to civilization that very day or that evening, and then the damage surveys can wait for days or weeks after that. So that was it. Well, Evan Bookbinder flew down to Dallas, and we departed and went down to chase Hurricane Ida. This hurricane chase was probably unlike almost any hurricane chase that I've had in my 40-year career doing this. And that is, the track that was forecasted was consistent. And that's a rarity. We don't normally see tracks that are that consistent. This is advisory number 1A. And it's just west of Jamaica. And you can see they have it crossing the tip of Cuba and becoming a hurricane and entering somewhere in the middle of Louisiana. So the odds of this forecast being correct is usually less than 10% in my book. But I have to make some decisions here. First of all, timing. It says it's coming in early morning hours there on Monday, and daytime is preferred over nighttime for obvious reasons. You can see what's going on during the day. At night, I mean, there's nothing that is more dark than being in a hurricane at night because all the power goes out, you can't see. And you just have to sit there and listen to the wind. So I watched this, and then by the time Advisory 6A came out, which is 8 p.m. on Friday, August 27, now we're talking about major hurricane, that's what the M is, and it makes landfall sometime during the afternoon on Sunday, but it's right still in the middle of Louisiana. And I have to react pretty quickly because the hurricane warnings went up here. When the hurricane warnings go up, places start to lock down. Motels, you can't get a motel room. They just simply just book out because emergency managers and the people who are coming in, the first responders, need places to stay. So a lot of times these hotels just get booked just hours after a hurricane warning is issued. So it was at this time that I decided that I was going to book a hotel room in Morgan City, Louisiana. I don't know if you know where Morgan City is, but it's right where that H is there in the on this graphic. And I booked it for that night so that we could see the hurricane during the day and maybe get back and have at least a hotel room. Now, almost all the time when I do this, one of two things happen. Either the hotel will close and cancel my reservation. Usually they do let me know about that. Or I have a hotel room, but there's no power. And I don't know if you remember those days before air conditioning, how it is to sleep on in a hot, stifling environment. It's very difficult to do that. So one of those two things usually happen. And I'll take the latter as long as I have a place I can lay down for a while. It's very seldom that I want to really sleep in my car. That only is a last resort. Sleeping in a vehicle is, as you know, very uncomfortable. And I don't know about you guys, but I need to have a pretty flat surface in order to get some rest. So here I booked a hotel room in Morgan City. Days out. Now, coming to Advisory 9A, it's at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Now we have to make a decision about leaving and where we're going to go. Well, we're going to obviously head out towards Morgan City. So then we come into Saturday at 10 o'clock. So this stage here, Evan had flown down on that Saturday, and we went ahead and drove from Dallas to the Morgan City area and stayed at a hotel there nearby. One was in New Iberia, and then the next night was in Morgan City. I try to double book sometimes, and if I lose my hotel deposit, so be it, because I do want a place to stay if at all possible. And then here we are at 7 a.m. on the morning. We woke up and headed immediately out east to get in the path of this thing, and it was still forecast to be a major event. So here are some of the models, and there's a variety of models out there, and some of them I don't put much faith in them, especially at 147 hours, but it was interesting that the GFS here is saying that we're going to have a landfall with this, what looks to be a major hurricane in the center of Louisiana. So very consistent again. Here's a 60-hour H Wharf. Again, nice symmetrical eye. It looks very impressive here, coming into a little further east this time, maybe up towards Houma, but nonetheless, Louisiana had a big target on its back there. So to familiarize you with the place that we're going to go into, it's basically a swamp. That's about all I can say. If you're familiar with southern Louisiana, it is a swamp. Now you get to Lafayette, and it's not a problem to get to Lafayette. On Highway 90, though, as you start going southeast, New Iberia, Jeanerette, Franklin, Morgan City. Once you get to Morgan City, you're pretty much on the edge of what I would call a very lowland area. And from Morgan City to a town called Gray, there's very little because it's the Atchafalaya River Basin there. And so there's a lot of gators out there, things you got to be careful of. And then we decided, well, we've got kind of an area between Gray, Houma, Raceland, and yeah, Louisiana floods. That's what the map says. That's what it does. It does flood, and that whole area is not very good. Now, the last thing you'd ever want to do is think about going further south to Dulac or down to Grand Isle or down to Port Sulphur or Empire, Burris, Venice, those areas. I've been down to all those areas, and I can tell you they're very low and they will flood, and you will be stuck for a long time. And in fact, roads get washed out, and you will really have to just abandon your vehicle. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to have my vehicle as my lifeline. I do not want to lose it. I don't want to get flooded, and I need to get back to civilization. I like a hot meal. I don't like to have bologna sandwiches all the time. So yeah, here I'd like to get a good hot meal. So the track, the way it works here is we're going to pretty much use 90 as a lifeline. It is a 2-lane divided highway. So there's actually, 4 lanes, and it's usually out in the open where they have easements that they cut away the trees, and it has lots of nice bridges on it that you can seek refuge on top of a bridge if you need to. So 90 is my lifeline. I don't even want to get more than a mile off of 90. I don't want to get flooded. I don't want to get blocked by trees, anything like that. Just pretty much stick to 90. That's the strategy. It's just totally different chasing hurricanes than it is tornadoes. So tornadoes, there's plenty of roads out there and you have plenty of options. Here, there's only one road, and to me, it's 90. And that is either going to be blocked or not, but that's the road that I have to depend on. So there's a thing called Google Streets, and it is phenomenal. I wish I had that 40 years ago when I started chasing, but you can go on there and drive the path before you go drive the path. And that's what I did. I took Google Streets and I just went for a ride here down 90, and you can see how fairly open it is. It's not too bad. And then not this. You don't want to get any kind of trees down, because I have been in this situation in Katrina. I had 10 exits in Katrina, and all of them were blocked by trees. So, I should carry a chainsaw with me, but fortunately, there are other people with chainsaws, and they've been able to get those out of the way. But it takes time, and I just don't want to be blocked in like that. That's just not something that's fun to me. There are nice bridges on US Highway 90, and again, those are lifelines that you can get above any kind of flooding that's occurring. They're calling for surges on 10, 12 feet. Obviously, that's not good. And being on top of a bridge, and they've got plenty of pull-off areas there, and very few people will be out during a hurricane. Only people like myself will be out there, because I want to avoid this. And I can't tell you the number of chasers who have been caught in floods like this, and this is something I definitely don't want to have happen. And you've heard about turn around, don't drown, right? And for flash flooding, well, it happens in hurricanes as well here. And then I don't want to be exposed to any kind of strong wave action. I know, waves are great to see. And you go out there the day before the hurricane, you see the waves crashing over piers and things. But as the hurricane floods the area, the waves right on top of that surge, and it can do tremendous damage to these bridges. And obviously, you're stuck if you're on top of a bridge. If you're in that car in that lower left there, you're in there for a long time. You have to leave your car and you have to get rescued. Now, I don't want to get rescued. I want to get out of there. Okay. Then, of course, fuel is a big thing. And here I have canisters of fuel. These are each 5 gallons. I brought with me like 20 gallons worth of fuel, and then I had another 4 gallons in the back. So I was pretty set for fuel. And I have run out of fuel twice in hurricane chasing. It's not fun to do that because now your vehicle is you just can't go anymore with the vehicle. So here we are preparing for departing, because obviously when you get close to the hurricane zone, everybody's in a mad dash to fill up their vehicles. And there's long lines. I certainly don't want anything like that around. So I want to make sure that I can avoid that. Okay. And then of course cooler. I've got, you know, sandwiches and fruit and drinks like that. And those freezer packs that you can buy and put in your freezer the night before. That's what I did. So we had everything cold. In fact, they kept my cooler cold for 3 days. Even when I got back to Dallas, I still had the freezer packs are pretty good, and ice that I bought along the way was still in the cooler. And of course, lots of road gear. And I have used the tow straps already. I've gotten stuck several times by thinking that the shoulder was paved, and it was not. It was a very soft shoulder, and I've sunk into it, and I don't like to have to get rescued in the middle of a hurricane, especially. I had Scott Peak help me out in one of the hurricanes, pull me out when I got stuck in a ditch. But I don't always have to depend on another storm chaser. You know, I want to make sure that I can get back home without having to get stuck. And then, of course, Fix-A-Flat, because you will see here, there's lots of things that can puncture your tire. But the most important thing to me is getting good meals. And here we are on our way down to the Bayou Country. And Evan and I stopped off at Outlaws Barbecue for a nice barbecue dinner. While everybody's boarding up windows, we're feasting. And that's what I like to do. There are very few people on the roads. It's kind of interesting. And usually when I go into a hurricane zone, the opposite lanes are packed. But I didn't see anybody really evacuating very much. I saw power crews staging. These guys are amazing. They go out down there and they basically sit in a parking lot, wait for the hurricane to hit, and then they go out to work. And so we had convoys of them, but for the most part, the roads were just absolutely open and dead. So when we got down to the Morgan City, New Iberia area, we had beautiful sunset. Normally get that the night before the hurricane. Still watching the track coming in Sunday morning. And so as far as logistics are concerned, looking at the models, looking at the tracks on radar, I thought the best place for us to be would be in the Raceland area, which is southwest of New Orleans. And on the left is the aerial Google imagery along with the Google streets on the bottom. You can see that beautiful tall bridge. And then on the right, there's the GPS, my GPS there. I'm not more than a half a mile from 90. That's Route 90. And there was actually a row of like bushes there along this canal that protected us from the strong east winds that were there. We were kind of in a shadow there for most of the hurricane because the eye was coming towards us, and ahead of the eye, you get these strong easterly winds. So here we go. All right, so I have radar scope on my phone, and as long as there's cell service, you've got nice radar imagery here. So here we are waiting for it. We're in the town of Gray, just south of Thibodaux and west of Raceland. And at this stage, we are far away from the hurricane. I mean, you've got the eye wall, and you have kind of a secondary eye wall, and then we're just kind of in light rain here. So the winds are very light. So we're waiting hour upon hour, and, you know, we get bored. So what we do is we, you know, tour around. Evan's there doing his flood water imitation there. Of course, he's kneeling there, but it's you know, try to do kind of the media thing, you know. And so I happen to need to go to the bathroom, and there happened to be a porta potty nearby. So I went to this porta potty, and then when I left, a gust of wind came and knocked it right over. And it was like, wow, I was certainly glad I was not in there at the time that it happened. But so luck is on my side. So the initial damages are things that people leave outside, your garbage cans, of course, fences, wood fences, rot, and some shingle damage. This is the light stuff. These are just gale force winds that occur with these hurricanes. So looking at the eye and its track, now here, this is at 2:25 in the afternoon. You can see the eye is coming on shore, and I'm trying to project where it's going to go. Here it's moving very slowly, only at like 10, 14 miles an hour. And I've got the track going to the northwest. And so that puts us in the eye wall in maybe an hour and a half or so. And we're going to get the secondary or outer eye wall first. And that you get gusts there near hurricane force out of the east, and then you get a lull, and then you get the main eye. So it was only 18 miles away, but because it was moving so slow, this was always in slow motion. You had literally an hour of strong winds and then kind of lulls, and then another hour of even stronger winds before the eye got there. So we're getting wind gusts 70, 80 miles an hour. You can see them junction 90, so I'm really close to 90 there. I'm going to show a video here shortly, and we'll get to see what that looks like. We parked at the lee side of these row of bushes, so we could see some of these things to our southwest here. And there was a nice tall sign there that was coming apart. Each one of those signs there, well, we have a label there. There's AutoZone, there's El Paso Mexican Food. We were taking bets on which sign was going to come off first and second and third through the hurricane event. The shell over there was on a generator, so it had power, but the pumps were shut off, so there was no chance of getting fuel there at that time. So the things that we were seeing in the outer eye was, some pieces coming off of these canopies that are out there. Gas pump was not attached very well, and it fell over. Power lines coming down. Some movement of the traffic signals. That happens in the wind gusts 70, 80 miles an hour. So then we get in with the primary eye wall coming in. That's, to me, the tenderloin of the steak, if you will. It is the best of the show. If you're not in the eye wall, you're simply not in the hurricane. I mean, that's the way it works. So I prefer to be in the eye wall. If I can get in the eye, fine. But I'd actually rather be in the eye wall because you're more time for wind. If you're in the eye, it's calm. So it's or relatively. So the eye wall is a good place. But we're limited on where we can go here because of the terrain and topography here being so low. So here's the primary eye wall. It was whiteout conditions like being in a car wash. Winds were pulsing, and you'll see that in the video here coming up, where it'll surge and then come back and then surge again, and power lines are coming down, tree branches are coming down. You got to be careful of flying debris. I've had my vehicle struck a number of times. I've had broken windows in my vehicle. I don't want that to really happen. So we try to not drive around during these things because lots of debris, and it only can take roof gravel. Roof gravel can break your windows. All right, so I will show a video here momentarily, see if this will work. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to need to escape here. Okay. Gonna have to go to full screen here mode. Here we are. All right. Okay. Stand by for just 1 second, folks. Okay, trying to see my video clip here. Can you all see that by chance? All right. All right, did you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go out with another video now. And this will be our way out of Highway 90.
That along the immediate Gulf Coast, there must have been a sale on signages. Because, yes, the bridge indeed does ice the roadway.
The 2-lane highway.
Whoa, another little eddy vortex just raced across the road. There's no highway left.
Evan calls this the Hurricane South.
I mean, it literally looks like there's...
Okay. Go back to, let's see if we get the PowerPoint back here. Make sure I got that. Exit here. Okay, did I get all that right? Hopefully.
Nice job.
All right, very good. So we got into the eye. It was a cloudy eye. Most eyes at ground level are cloudy. I've only once seen the stadium effect, and that was briefly at night in Harvey, but I missed Elena because I was in the eye wall there, and more than half of the chases I've been in have been in nighttime, so you can't really see much except stars. I saw a few stars in Harvey. That was about it. So here, this is the eye of, and of course it was calm. We had a little light east wind that was misty that kind of calmed down, and then we got light west wind that was misty, and then the back half of the hurricane, which was not as strong as the front half hit us. But the damages during the eye, and we had an hour and 15 minutes to go around and look at the damage here. It was a shopping center right across the street from where we were, had a brick wall that was pushed in, and the soffits were blown up, and it had quite a bit of roof damage and some roof decking that we saw come off. This is just down the highway. We have some siding that came off and roof shingles. Power lines, of course, are toppled over or broken. There are some interesting, what we call cladding items like brick and siding that came off this Holiday Inn nearby in Raceland. Then, of course, the typical asphalt shingle damages on corners, especially on the windward side. The roofers are going to be really busy down there for a long time. There, vinyl siding and vinyl fencing. Why do they have this in hurricane zones? I think it's just to give me work. It's just amazing. They should not have vinyl siding or vinyl fencing in hurricane zones, okay? Hey, look at the McDonald's over here. The McDonald's sign has been rearranged. I'm loving that. And then the canopy over here on the right, gas station canopies are like wings of airplanes sitting out there, and they frequently get damaged in 100-mile-an-hour gusts. And that's all we really had, I think. It was about 100-mile-an-hour gusts, nothing of 140 sustained wind like some were saying, but it was just a gust about 100. And of course, the power lines come down and trees come down on power lines, and so you got lots of power outages, thousands and thousands of poles having to be replaced. This is really a mess. We're still living in the old ages of elevating our electrical lines up on wood poles. That's been done since the very beginning, and it's like we're still haven't made much progress in that realm of things. And getting out of the damage path on Highway 90 was certainly an obstacle course, but we made it, and we were back at our hotel in Morgan City at 8 o'clock that night, and guess what? They still had power. They had a generator. So we had a nice, cool, air-conditioned room, and that was just fantastic to have. In fact, what we did that morning is we stopped by the hotel to see if everything was okay, and we had our room and everything, and they said, oh, we have the room available now. So we went in and we turned the air conditioner down to 60 so we could have a nice cold room if the power went out still. I've learned that lesson a long time ago. All right. And then in getting out of the damage path, of course, we got back into civilization in Lafayette. That morning we had a nice big Waffle House breakfast, and that helped us get the fuel we needed to get all the way back to Dallas. So I wish I was a hurricane hunter, because this is what it looked like from the plane above, where we were in a cloudy eye with the clouds below. Above, it was a beautiful cylinder with blue sky above. So I'm jealous of the hurricane hunters. There was quite a bit of damage down in the strongest winds, which were near Grand Isle. Lots of wood frame housing had lost walls where the connection is between the wall and the floor, and lost the roof where the roofs are attached to the walls. It's pretty common. Power poles galore down. And of course, the flooding. It's a tremendous amount of water there. And in fact, there are still places that are flooded down there. So aerial view, I think this is from the governor that flew by in some of the areas that are flooded, and you can see that the whole area was underwater for a pretty long time there. So that is my chase. Glad everything went well and we got back safely. So that to me makes a successful mission. And I'm very pleased that Evan was with me, and I think he is game to go again. So hopefully, maybe this year we'll get another hurricane. It's still a little not over yet. We still have another month or so to do some storm chasing. I did not go down to the coast for Nicholas because let's just face it, Cat 1s are pretty much rain events, and I'm not very interested in a piddly Cat 1. I have to have something with more beef in it, something that has more of a 3 or 4 or 5. Those get my attention, and those are the storms that I seek out. So thank you for inviting me, and I will turn it back over to y'all.
Thank you very much. This is a great presentation. I want to open it up if anyone has any questions that they might have.
Hi, Skip. How you doing? Been a long time since.
Well, I follow you on Facebook. I'm always interested in your photos. I've used several as my screensaver. So,
Looking well, Skip. Is that a supercell behind you there on the wall with a lightning bolt?
yeah, somebody gave that to me one time, and I dutifully mounted it and look at it.
You can see my study is full of lots of things, lots of DVDs and videos and just so much, 40 years worth, 40 years of, because back in those olden days, they had a thing called VHS. Remember that?
Yes, you still have one that works?
I do have a VCR, believe it or not, and it works. How many of us can say that they have a VCR that works?
Well, I've got one that worked the last time I tried it, which was, though, a couple years ago. So, and I've converted everything I needed on VHF to a DVD, so I don't really need it much anymore.
I think we have a question coming in on chat here about roof damage. Did I see that right? When dealing with roof damage in tropical storms or minimal hurricanes, where do you see the damage specifically occur? Well, if the wind is coming out of the east, as in this case, anything that faces east is game because it's the windward side, especially on a corner or on the eave where the wind is forced to go around or up and over the roof. So we see the windward eave, the windward roof corners, and any gable end that faces the east. Wherever wind can separate from the building, that's usually where you see the wind damage initiate and then progresses down wind from there. That's one of the reasons why I want to kind of be on the back side of something like a row of bushes or something that can break the wind. So, you know, I'm not right out in it because you get debris flying. We saw sheet metal flying. We saw pieces of sign flying. I don't want to be hit by that. Like I said, even roof gravel could do damage to your vehicle.
I have a quick question. So what has been your most memorable hurricane chase and why?
Well, both of those were at night. It's Harvey and Laura. Harvey was an intercept at night, and it was extremely perilous. I made sure that I was on high ground there just north of Rockport, but it was just total whiteout because it was so slow moving for hours. And, you know, it wears on you after a while. And so I just don't like to be kind of, you know, in harm's way for a prolonged period of time. And that was Harvey. With Laura, it was also a strong hurricane, maybe not as strong as Harvey, but I felt safer because I was up the top of a parking garage at a hospital. So, I mean, what better place to be, right? And so I was there, and they were very helpful in allowing me to be there during the event. And so that was nice that I could be in there. But those are the two most powerful hurricanes I've been in, Harvey and Laura. I almost went to Andrew, but unfortunately I had a court case during that time. And I was going to go to Michael, but then I had another court case come up. So I have to balance between work and play. And unfortunately, my work doesn't really recognize my play. So, you know, I have to balance. So I can't get them all, as they say. So I can only, if I have the right window of time and the opportunity, I can do that. I make sure I try not to schedule anything in September or last part of August, but, I have to work, so I've got to be able to hopefully get something that's not a big project.
Still managed to get some memorable ones, though, for sure.
Yeah, I've seen about 27, 28 hurricanes. I want to make it an even 30, it'd be kind of nice to do that. And again, I am picky, so it has to be forecast of Cat 3 or better for me to get interested. Although Cat 2, I did write out Ike in Galveston Island there, and that was really a pretty good hurricane. And then a couple of hurricanes from last year that were Delta was also pretty good, and Sally, I was over in the Gulf Shores area. And that's a good place to ride out a hurricane. There's plenty of parking garages, and there's a couple of ways you can get off that place there if you need to. So.
Do you get many questions from local authorities, like what are you doing there, and that sort of thing?
All the time. That's why I got Evan, government employee, with me. Well, no, I've been asked many times, and I have stickers on my vehicle, and I have different stickers for whatever event I'm involved with. So I have some media stickers, and they always are very kind about it. And I explain what I'm doing, and then I'm out here, to do something more than just experience a hurricane. I'm not looking to steal anything. I'm obviously out there to experience the storm. And then I do what's called kind of I wouldn't call it a weather bride, but it's sort of like, hey, I've got these radars. You want to see where the storm's at? You want to see where the track is going? You don't want to hear the forecast. They're always interested in information, and I do the same thing with the hospitals. That if I'm near a hospital, I will say, hey, if you want to know where the storm is heading and the track, what the forecast is, I have all of that information with me up to date, because they can't pay attention to the weather the whole time. They have other things to do. So I give them actually a little weather briefing, if you will. So that's what I do, and they're very, very receptive to having these weather briefings. But once they find out that I'm not a person up to no good, that I'm there for a reason, then they let me go.
Well, that's good. Thank you, Tim.
Another chat message here, I think from Bill.
All right.
Maybe someone else.
Explain the difference between positive and negative pressures. Well, sure. I mean, positive is when you're trying to push your refrigerator from the front side, right? And the negative is when your kid is trying to pull from the back side. So that kind of gives you the idea of the pushing and the pulling. Positive pressure is the application of wind on the front side, and then the back side is kind of the suction side or the pulling side there. So that's the difference. Did you notice any improvements after Katrina? Not really in this area. In fact, I noticed a lot of people didn't take this storm very seriously compared to others. And I think it's because of the fast movement of the storm and the fact that there was no mandatory evacuation for New Orleans. So a lot of people just said, hey, we're just going to ride this out, and a lot of the folks in the Southeast have experienced many hurricanes. And so there wasn't the mass exodus there on Highway 90 the night before. It was amazing. There was hardly anybody out. I think where the people were at the Walmart stocking up on stuff, and shelves were bare. We went into the Walmart there in New Iberia, and but we still were able to get some things, and it was just that people were just going to ride it out because it was moving fast. It was going to be over with, and okay, power is out, but a lot of people have either generators or they have a big barbecue.
Do you have any or did you have any with this instance, any serious issues with communications during the whole event, or did you just deal with it as it came, or how did your services work out?
We lost cell service we lost it in the eye wall. When the eye wall happened, we lost the cell communication, was spotty at best. And when we went back to Morgan City that night, we still didn't have cell service there. It wasn't until the next morning where we could drive out to Lafayette that we got back in a cell service range. So cell service went down. And of course, when it goes down, then we don't get a radar update. So we're not privy to what's going on radar wise.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
Hey, Tim, Scott Ray.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, I have a question for you. I may have missed you saying this earlier, but you showed a little bit of wind damage as it was down some of the homes. I mean, the homes down there on stilts. How was the storm surge in this particular one?
Yeah, the surge, of course, is the maximum on the right side of that hurricane where you have the onshore flow plus the wind fetch coming off the water. So Grand Isle got pasted. And in fact, looking at aerial images afterwards, that road that goes to Grand Isle was completely covered with mud and silt. And so you'd have to have a high profile 4-wheel drive just to get down to the bridge that goes over to Grand Isle. I'm not sure how it is now, a couple weeks later, whether or not you can get back out on there or not. But there's certainly going to be some road work that needs to be done.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Anybody else? Well, if there aren't any more questions, I want to thank you again for starting off our calendar year, or our academic year, however you want to look at it, with your presentation. It was fantastic. I really appreciate it. And I guess moving forward, we will have meetings every month between now and the end of May. The next couple of speakers are in the works. It'll be, I can't tell you which month will be which because we're still working out details. But let's see, Mark Fox, who is now the MIC at Norman, is going to be one of the speakers, who is a previous past president for our organization here locally. Kevin Clazel, who's also up at OU dealing with emergency management and as a meteorologist. And then Marshall Shepard, past AMS president, national AMS president, is on the docket as well. There's another chat message in here. I don't have my reading glasses, so I can't read it. So David, if you want to look.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you guys for attending.
But thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everyone again on the second Tuesday in October.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.